let's start. I'll call the meeting to order. Do you have a motion to approve the minutes from last month?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
For a second?
One second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Good. The president's not here, so he can't remark. And the vice president has no foreknowledge, so he didn't prepare anything.
You knew when 2 minutes ago.
I know. I mean, I don't, nothing that I can think of. I can mention it now, I guess. When is the gate at the beach supposed to be open? On a routine basis?
From 8 until 8,
Okay.
This
when-
time of year.
Yep.
this time of year.
Yesterday it was not open at 9:28 when I rode by there.
Okay. Call me when that happens.
I
Sometimes,
meant to call you
And
and
I'll-
I got preoccupied.
because what it is, Charlene schedules the people who actually sit there and check for
Right.
hang tags and we pay. Then there's a group of, I think, 4, Shirley's on that list as well. And I do a little schedule for them and they're responsible. I send that out, you're here this week, that week, and so on. And then Shirley and her group are intermittent into that. So you might get there, it's already open because Shirley's got somebody there, something like that. It's,
We might check and see who was supposed to do it yesterday and then
yeah, I can do that, yeah, I'll check and see.
remind them.
Well, I was down there, after Meals on Wheels, I was down there, probably 11, I guess.
So it was open now? Okay. Probably late, but I just,
Usually I get a phone call because, especially if somebody's there who wants to get in and it's closed, they call.
yeah. Okay. All right, so we have a member of the public here. This is Kurt
I'm
Larson.
in the public.
Yeah. What do you have to say, Kurt?
Well, after the trials and tribulations of the beach and things like that, I try to do a little retro, just to bring everybody up to date where we began, where we are now, and what my opinion is as to what we're doing in the future. And just kind of what, and so I've done my usual, chronological thing of nice, pretty pictures. This is the earliest Google Earth image that we can find of the beach area, which is 2013. The only one I had on the detail on it, pass that one around.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we began. You can see that pretty much the beach has pretty much a straight shoreline, and you can start to see the riprap on the house just immediately north of the beach.
Right.
And when we first began to start looking at what was going on there, this is, put my glasses on so I'm looking at it myself. This is the way that the beach looked when we first started looking at it in 2018. So this is the way, just looking at the area where the riprap is and how things started. You can see there's a little bit of a curve right in the beach, right at the end of the riprap.
Right.
And then the same thing, looking down the beach at the boundary with Drum Point Club. And the thing that, and going through these pictures, the things to look at is you see where our utility pole is, and you see there's one little square sign which is on the Drum Point Club fence, just as something to key in on. So that's 2018. In 2019, it wasn't much different. Okay? This is 2019. That's just the riprap. And this is looking down the shoreline. This is one little tiny square sign, just to give you an idea of what it looked like. In 2020, this is the riprap. You can just start to see a little bit of the curve down below the riprap. And then same thing looking down the beach in 2020. See that one? This is just the same thing, Martin, 2020. later in that year, it began to a little bit more, you know, you see a little bit more removal of sediment back around the riprap. Some of that might be because it's different than the tide.
Well, but there's also a lot more asphalt showing up, so we had some storms
There's been a lot of erosion right
on
here.
and off that would expose that and then sometimes fill it back in.
Yeah, there's a lot of-
So this is in spring 2021. You can see, basically, you can see the curve of the shoreline right around riprap.
A lot of asphalt.
And even if it was back behind the rocks.
So this is November 2021, Jimmy. Mike. And now, we're going to look at today. Okay. Take a peek at that one. This is the structure that we have now, that's in place. And this is just to give you an idea, you know, that comes around, but here's our structure, which is basically a jetty which is slanted toward the south. And you can see that there's sediment building up a little bit on the south side of it. But that's just basically, the important thing is to notice the extreme curve in the shoreline. And then again, looking at it down the beach, you can see that there's a really strong curve in the beach, right? And that's there.
But that was starting before the spur went down.
And it was formed by the spur.
Because, yeah,
So the thing is that then this is just trying to get an idea of what the shoreline is and what the picnic tables look like. That was actually yesterday, I think. And this is yesterday also. You can see that the curve is really pronounced going down to where the property line is with the Gun Point Club. The family, that's an interesting thing there, and this is the structure itself. And the structure is behaving like a groin, so that it's stopping sediment on the north moving longshore, and people are using that as a nice sunbathing area. And then you're beginning to see, you know, a little bit of sediment back down below at the south side of the jetty. The thing that's interesting to me is from what I've learned about these things. If I go back and I look at the designer's drawings, I'll pass this one around. And this is the before drawing, before the structure, and I marked out in yellow what the shoreline was when they surveyed to begin of the project. So basically, there was a little bit of a curve here, but then a linear beach running down to the property owners with the John Point Club. The next one is actually what the designer proposed, what was going to happen with the structure. And the same thing, the structure is coming out here. In the yellow area is still the area that he proposed, that the shoreline that was going to result after this was in. The main thing, which I didn't understand totally, was apparently all of this was supposed to be, you know, deposited afterwards. That didn't make any sense to me. But the main thing was that the area that was filled behind with where the high marsh is supposed to be. I'll look at that in a minute. But I wanted to talk to you about how these things work. And what I've done is try to pass these around. This is kind of an easy representation of a similar type of situation. In this case, this is an offshore breakwater. But the main thing to think about is that the tip of our jetty, or in this case, an onshore breakwater, is a determinant of what the shape of the curve is going to be in the shoreline. It's a mathematical curve that's basically dependent upon the wind and wave action dominant in that area. So basically the thing is that the other point of view is that the curve, the size and shape of the curve, the shape of the curve is determined mathematically, but the size of the curve is determined by the distance from this point, from the top of the jetty, to the shoreline. So in other words, if this thing were out 200 feet, rather than what it is now, this would be a whopping big curve that would go in and would take out a lot of the surf. The main thing is that in our case, if this were the normal case, what would happen is that with this curve in position, this would erode sediment from our existing beach to fill the area behind our jetty. So in other words, for any sediment to be deposited here would require erosion of the beach in order to move it here. And that would give you a stabilized curve, you know, as far as the geometry of the beach itself. So the question is, in my mind, is I don't think, it's not clear to me whether the one design diagram actually proposed that there was going to be sedimentation back on the south side of the jetty or not. If so, it's not really possible for that to happen, given the wave dynamics and the mathematics and basically the physics of the situation. As it is now, I think if you looked at all this stuff, the original idea was that it was going to be a linear beach, pretty much running down to the property line with Drum Point Club. And now with the curve developing in there now, it's pretty much, you know, beginning to encroach on those areas. And I think probably, you know, narrowing our portion of the beach now there as the belly of this curve kind of tries to establish itself. So the thing is that kind of in my mind is that I think that we need to be able to monitor that area, because I don't think we're done yet as far as the natural responses to the wind and wave action, and just basically the physics of how these types of landforms evolve. So in a lot of these pictures, I think we can begin to use some of the fixed areas that we have, and one would be the utility pole that's there. Be able to use that utility pole and to go out and simply measure distances at high tide, so there's always a comparable time of tide. So we could actually go out and see what's actually happening on the beach to see if it's in fact narrowing. My sense is that this curve may expand in the area, and that's the thing that I'm curious about, and that I think that we need to watch for. And you know, that's just it's just you know, it's kind of, you know, forewarning of what we need to think about. I mean, in other words, it's not done yet. It's not, you know, it's not over yet. And I think that we just have to be able to, you know, see the thing as a dynamic situation and follow it as the changes go on. So that's basically.
I've noticed since the jetty is out that there seems to be an acceleration of the trees coming down right at where the property lines meet.
Yeah, I think that I think that is going on. And yeah, at the club property. So I mean, I think that curve, if you look at some of the photographs, that curve is now encroaching, is really, you know, down at the property line between us and the club here. So that's just one thing we just have to be aware of. Because like I said, I don't think it's over, and it's a dynamic situation. I simply think we need to be able to watch what's going on.
Kurt, how often would you suggest it be measured?
Do we measure? I mean, I would just do it maybe, you know, during the seasons, you know, just do, you know.
So 4 times a year?
I mean, just do something like that. You know, you don't have to be fanatical about the thing, but I mean, it may change after storms occasionally, you know, you have to look at that kind of situation. But it would behoove us, I think, to be able to monitor that.
Do we have prior measurements from before this all took place? Like maybe on the.
Well, I mean, we have this thing which we measured, you know, 90 feet or 100 feet for the basic width before it all happened. And then, and when this started too, Peter Holt does his heart, and I did a profile across the area, measured it about, you know, the whole width was about 100 feet between the shoreline and the lake. So that, you know, that's kind of in the range of what the width of the beach was at that time. So anyway, so the thing is, I mean, the only other thing is we have what the designer's drawings were, and assuming, I mean, they had surveyors out. So I think we can, you know, so we can use the scale in those drawings to try to figure out what was proposed.
Pictures. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be dynamic. It's going to be both short-term storms and things and long-term.
Yeah.
With,
But, you know, I guess the fun part about doing this was yesterday, when I was there yesterday, there was a family, a large family on the beach, and I parked the car and I was going out to take pictures again. And I walked down the beach and they were all speaking Arabic. So I addressed them in Arabic. And this guy said, "You speak Arabic?" And so it was kind of fun because this was a family who rented the Airbnb up at the other end of Grand Point Lake. And they were down, making use of the beach. And it was just, and the whole family was from Oman. So this is an area where I had done archaeological work in the past.
Oh, wow.
And so I could talk about all this. It was just kind of fun talking about all this stuff.
Huh.
Good story.
But it was fun. If you want that set, you can have the set. Or Rhea says she's got too many in my folder.
Well, I didn't say too many. Did not say bigger. But are these the same photos though that you did bring?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I just tried to, to put as many,
Yeah.
consecutive views that I've done over time, just to have some kind of record.
Let me do this, I did say there were too many files in the back, I do remember that,
Okay.
although not anymore. But let me keep them and compare them with the file that I have,
Okay.
make sure I have them all, so we
Sure.
do get a nice progression.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just
And then I'll return what I don't need,
anything that you
what I already have.
put your way up.
So we watch it, and if it's getting worse, what do we do?
Well, I mean, I think you're gonna have to live with it. I mean, whatever we have now, we're gonna have to live
Well, I
with.
mean, you could tear the groin, you can spur down, but
Well, we could say that, but that's, I mean, you're not gonna, I don't think you're gonna, I mean, as I said, I mean, the determinant of the size of the curve is the distance from the tip of that groin to the shoreline. I mean, you could diminish it, and if we could demonstrate that that's what's going on, then we could address the problem.
I think, trying to see if we could benchmark these pictures here relative to the property line. It's hard because.
I mean, the only ones you can, looking south, the only thing you can see, there's this one little square sign on the Drum Point Road.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of
And
looking
that's,
at.
and that's kind of hard to see on some of them.
Some of them doesn't show up.
Yeah. Or it was behind the bushes when I took the picture.
Yeah. But, I know for a fact that this beach down in here, going down towards there, has eroded, filled in, eroded, filled in.
Yeah.
And you can see it in some of these pictures by looking at the asphalt line. It looked to me also like there was a little bit of curvature starting to form before the thing went in, but we don't have a perspective that shows enough of the beach.
No, I mean, you can see a little bit of curvature right at the riprap, okay, and
Right.
before I started, and then, in just kind of the way I look at the thing, I mean, that was very close to the shoreline. So in the theoretical thing that I'm saying,
Right.
mathematically determining the curves, it's just like, 5 or 10 feet out, and it
Yeah.
gave you that little curve.
But,
This one's bigger than that, so.
but you also, and the curve is part of it. We've had a lot of sand fill in behind the things. We widened the beach there. And like you said, we may have done that somewhat at the expense of some of that sand coming
Yeah,
off.
so in other words, I mean,
So-
as far as in experience, I mean, the sand that's piling up there now is basically, I think, basically being eroded out of our beach a little bit further to the south. And it's just being redeposited. So,
Could be, it's hard to
so,
tell.
anyway, the main thing
There's
is.
a tracer on it.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is that in looking at this thing, unfortunately, I think that, that the shoreline is gonna continuously move back. And what I've been looking at is looking at one point itself. And if you look at some of the Google Earth images of it, you can see that there's a lot of shallow water deposition down by the point itself. And my gut feeling as far as, the material that's being removed from the north end of this beach as well as Jones Point Beach is going to basically expand, seaward the area around Town Point, at Town Point. Unfortunately, the county claims that it's their land, but I mean,
Yeah.
But anyway, we can go with those things and mess with them.
Well, I think we ought to keep these, and they're dated, and it's,
Yeah, so I'll look and see if I already have any of them. If not, I'll make sure I
We
get
have
it.
all those in there. I'm not gonna do that. Anyway, so the main thing is, in a natural area, this is kind of what happens in a natural area with a headland, and the headland basically forms, forms that curve,
right.
or the way the diffraction does. Anyway, you can have those, and I'll get out of your hair because you have important business. And I'll go home and pick crabs.
But we do, yeah, we need to think, and maybe you can help us, set up some sort of a quarterly measuring process.
Yeah, I just think it's a good idea.
But we'll have to, we're gonna have to pay attention to things like storms and tides and things like that, so we're,
So like I said, I mean, if we're gonna
But too
measure,
many
if we're
variables
gonna
in there.
measure any kind of horizontal distances, I think we should do it at high tide. And so we always at least have that benchmark in the, at the water edge, anyway.
yeah.
Anyway, that's kind of what I think we need to do, is we need to follow it and be aware that it's, it may not be done yet, so. But I mean, it's just, it's nice down there.
Well, it's not gonna be static, I mean, we know that.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
gonna change for better or worse.
actually, yesterday was the first time I seen anybody on the beach, other than maybe, somebody, some sunbathers over north of the jetty. So one question, this is the question that lingers in my mind. When we first started doing this stuff, we would go and look at the dynamic topographic maps that the county had, and as far as property lines. And that property always showed up as being, the property, the edge of that block was at the top of the bluff, and it did not include the slope down to the water. So I kept thinking is that unless there was a quitclaim deed that went with that house, that was recorded with the county, or all of that property should belong to us.
Do you know about Edingers?
Yeah.
I would have to see if there's a quick line. Might be on file.
But,
I can check to see if there's a
I mean,
quick line.
it was one of those questions that got, back when we first started messing with this, that if you looked at, the county topo maps, basically, it showed Edinger lot ending at the top of the bluff, as well as the others a little bit further north. So the question is, if that's the case, and there's no quick claim, on those lots, I mean, they're basically our lots.
I think there is, as I think about it. Didn't Ward's Marine just redo their Edingers?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, I'll check, but I'm pretty sure that Michelle Warren called me and did a quick line for that. It's been a couple of years now, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure I did, but I'll check.
I mean, otherwise, so you can go on the Maryland land records, like,
I did that.
You did that?
I've got all of them on file in a spreadsheet,
Okay.
and a lot of hard copies on
Yeah,
file.
I'm just saying that
But, yeah.
it'd be good to know that whether or not there's really a quick thing.
I'll check it and see.
Okay, I'll get out of your
All
hair.
right.
Kurt, can I give, these are absentee ballots? I know you'll probably come to the meeting on the 25th
No, I can't,
or
I
so.
can't,
Oh,
I
you can?
can't.
Oh,
I'm gonna be,
there's
I'm
two
gonna,
of them
I'm gonna
there.
be in Sausalito.
Oh, well, so one of those is for you, and whoever else, maybe a neighbor,
I'm
you
supposed
can't
to,
make it.
I'm only supposed to vote once to.
Well,
Yeah, just one time.
maybe you can get Susan,
Yeah.
or.
Yeah, and I've got plenty, if you think of others who can't come,
Okay.
stop by.
Okay, we'll definitely do ours
Okay, glad I mentioned it,
and see who else is over.
good, right,
Yeah, okay.
all right.
And, when I'm in Sausalito, I'll be thinking about it. But the problem is, San Francisco at this time of year is very cold.
Is it?
It is,
I mean, when the valley is hot,
it's getting cold.
it gets cold. San Francisco is cold.
The coldest summer I ever met.
God, the worst one was, I shouldn't digress, the version. I'll do that. I mean, our oldest son used to work for Continental Airlines, and we could get passes to fly. So we got this one where Judy had this thing worked out where we could stay free at some hotel in Puerto Vallarta. So we were on our way to Puerto Vallarta, and we got down to Houston or something like that, and they said, I'm sorry, there's only one seat left on the plane to Puerto Vallarta. So we said, now what are we gonna do? Right? So we had passports, we said, okay, what should we do? Should we go to London for the weekend, or should we go to San Francisco? So we ended up going to San Francisco, where my niece lives in one of was living in one of the really funky houseboat communities in Sausalito. And so that's where we went, and it was so cold, we were dressed for Puerto Vallarta. And we get to San Francisco, and it was just so cold. Anyway.
Yeah, I went to a ball game in the new Candlestick Park,
Yeah.
during like a July, one time we were out there working.
Yeah.
Didn't have enough clothes,
No,
took what little we had, doubled it up, and then watched the vendors walk around, not selling beer, selling coffee.
yeah, I remember that.
Backpack with coffee.
So, anyway, I'll let you,
Okay, well, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
anyway. As I said, I'm going home depressed.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
See that?
See ya.
Give us an office update.
Yes, I have a property owner, who contacted me. The house across the street from him is in pretty bad condition. It's one we've talked about before. I don't like to name names because it's being recorded. But in any case, this property owner suggested that we change the covenants, because I explained to him that we cannot compel somebody to connect their property. We can't take them to court, we can't do anything, because it's nothing in our covenants. This man is willing to spearhead, if you will, another attempt to update the covenants. And I remember when Amber was here, and maybe it was laptop, anyway, and we talked about the very issue of not being able easily to change the covenants. And she reminded us that you have to be a member of good standing, so that maybe this 50% plus one is not, because there's like 1,400 lots. So that would mean 751 would have to vote in favor of it. If you don't return your ballot, it's a no vote. It's always been that way. It's how it's always been interpreted. But if we only take it as members in good standing would be allowed to vote, which makes sense. So is that something that the board wants to think about trying to do?
What does he want it to change it to say?
He wants to create a covenant where it says you have got to keep your property to a certain standard. Nothing too restrictive, not like an HOA architectural
Have him
rule.
draft an amendment,
Okay,
send it to us,
okay,
so we can look at it and noodle it and see if we want to pursue it.
okay.
And list his help or whatever, but we gotta, start with that, and then we gotta figure out how we really go about changing the covenants.
They didn't have to have someone like checking and enforcing and.
Well,
that's-
when I first started here in 06 or 07, John Gray, I think twice we tried to change the covenants. And the only thing they were trying to change was that rule that said a ballot not returned is a no vote. And we had attorney from Solomon's, not Donnelly. Yeah, Donnelly. Tony Donnelly? Come in,
Charlie?
Charlie Donnelly, come in and count the ballots, for us with two of his staff, so that it would be, because if you own 2 lots, Jack, you would have 2 votes, because you own 2 lots. That's for covenants, not bylaws. So you get one, so on and so forth. So, we had to run numbers, how many properties do you own, are you a member, well, we didn't do a member in good standing though. Anyway, so it failed. We needed 700 and some, and I think we didn't get 400 returned. And of those 400, not all of them said yes. So it's a really daunting task. And I explained that to him, but, and there are a couple of properties about which we can do nothing. And talking with zoning enforcement, there's another one in the community where they have a quantity of things in their carport. And a person that lives on down beyond them, nice house on the water, I hate to have my guests come by that house. Okay, so I reported to zoning enforcement. They can't do anything because a carport is considered part of your structure. Zoning enforcement doesn't address issues with how you keep your house itself, you know, and if all that stuff was strewn in the yard, yes,
It has to go to a health violation or something.
I guess, but I'm not even sure what health violation it would be.
Well,
I don't know.
If it's stinking and if
Well,
there's
that,
garbage
yeah.
all over the place.
Well, I don't
and
think
if
there
there's-
is. These are
Rats.
just bins and
Rats.
boxes. These are just bins and boxes that are sort of down the center of the carport, you probably all driven by for various things. But anyway, there's a couple, a handful.
Well, it would be nice to have more teeth to be able to do this,
It
but
would
then
be.
the flip side of that is then you risk turning into a Reston or a Columbia,
Mhm.
Which is what?
well,
Well,
which are
it's
very
a-
heavily,
Monitored.
Monitored.
Right, and I don't think we should do
Design.
that either, I
you know,
agree.
colors of your door. and-
Well, and that would be an architectural approval committee, that's different though, we're not talking about the architect.
Well, but it's,
They even
I
have,
see where
they even
it's a
have
slippery
laws where
slope.
you have to have your trash can back up, you know,
yeah.
Yeah.
put away by 9 in the morning or whatever.
Right,
yeah.
right, yeah, and those are the HOAs that you hear,
And
I never wanna live in an HOA again, you know, because of that.
Well, given the demographics down here, I don't think there's a chance in hell it would pass.
I tend
Um,
to agree,
But it'd be nice to have something to,
it would be.
Yeah.
And I think there, I'm not sure, but I think there would have to be a fine involved in order for us to take it to district court. That's why I can take
well,
claims to
there's
court.
all kinds of notification
HOA
things
fees.
and stuff like that you have to do. and,
Well, yes,
You
you don't just do it, I guess.
I mean, it sounds simple, just, you
Oh,
know, changing the covenant that you shall keep your house pretty. You know,
Well,
what do
we
you
have
mean-
to
what do you
do
mean by
that.
that?
Definition, where do you
What
draw
do
the line?
what do you mean by
Yeah,
pretty? What do you mean by,
Accumulation.
you've got too much stuff? What do you mean by, so that's the difficult part of this.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I know.
One of them.
And even with the county and, you know, there's a ordinance that says you're not allowed to have an unlawful accumulation of trash. Their idea of an unlawful accumulation and mine, totally different.
Yeah.
You know, there's a house that I've turned in several times over the years. And once or twice, they could give them a warning, and other times, like, well, that only rise the level of accumulation. Really? Okay, you know, so you're right. Anyway, this man has offered, so
Well,
how about if I suggest to him, if he could draft an amendment, send it to us, you know, see if that,
And then
If
we
we feel
pursue
it's-
how we would
go about it.
conceivably go about doing this.
I know, so there's that. I did have a truck towed, first time, down at the boat ramp. I got a call from a guy that, he lives on Deer Drive, and he couldn't get his boat into the water because this man had left his truck and trailer off to the side. So I contacted the sheriff's office, and she went, and one of the sheriff's deputies went down and looked. She said, yeah, you can definitely have it towed. She gave me the name of the owner, not somebody who lives in North Point.
We did.
Had it been, I would have tried to get in
I mean,
touch.
you probably didn't have a hang tag if it was.
No, there was no hang,
Yeah.
nothing.
Mm.
So I called, no, they gave me, the sheriff's office gave me the name of the towing company who said what that, and they came and towed it within the hour. It's $250 plus to get it out, and they had to tow the truck separately from the trailer.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking $500.
Good.
Plus,
Well,
whatever,
that's
if you
about it.
leave it
Yeah,
here
I'm
more
glad
than
you
a
had it
day,
towed.
you're gonna be building up like $50 more a day or something like that.
Good.
And this was on Friday, so
Mm.
I was sure I'd hear something really harsh on neighborhood, next door neighbor, whatever, or something. Not really. So that was good. So but what this guy who owns the towing company, who Southern Maryland Towing, said they will send us signs that we can post. And they took photos of the signs that say no parking and so on, so they had their ducks in a row. But they will send us signs saying towing at owner's expense, no parking, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Do we want that?
Yeah, I
kind
think
of
so,
assume we
yes,
do.
yes,
Okay.
just to remind people, don't park here, you're gonna pay for
Well,
it.
that, yeah, that's fair warning. that
Yeah, I think that's a
They
good
can't come
thing.
back and say, well, you weren't, you're
Yes.
not allowed to tow me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right.
I was on a Chesapeake Ranch page a while back, and somebody had questioned where they could put their boat in the water. And somebody came back and said, oh, up here on Riverview, you know.
and you said, try it.
Yeah, I didn't say anything,
Buddy.
I should have said something, but somebody else did reply and say, no, that's just for Drum Point
Okay.
property owners, but.
Well, there's a place just under the bridge in Solomon's.
Oh.
Do they charge?
Yeah,
Do they?
But-
It's not super expensive.
but it's only for normal, well, you can actually buy season passes and all kinds of stuff if you do it a lot. But if you're, let's see, if you're not of senior age, and I think it's 65, I think is what they use, it's $10 round trip per day, we put your boat in and out.
That's not bad.
And that is a really nice facility. It's got a nice
Mhm.
shallow ramp. It's got lots of width, lots of nice, good docks.
Yeah,
There's 2 or 3 ramps?
Hmm?
There's more than one ramp, 2 or 3?
Yeah,
I
we've
don't
got
know.
3.
Good.
If you're a senior old fogey, it's only $5.
it's amazing.
So,
That's great.
I mean, to me, it's not worth even hassling with this thing, with this
Yeah.
crappy little ramp we
Hey,
got.
hey,
I have
hey.
a, I have a question for you. Rhea, Mary Ann Sanguinetti, we were playing Mahjong today.
Uh-huh.
And she asked me, so I guess she has a house here, or her mom has
She
a
does,
house
yeah, I
here.
know what you mean, yeah.
But she says she doesn't have a hang tag, because she wants to use the boat ramp here. And I was like, well, go talk to Rhea. Yeah, so, and she didn't, I said, because each household gets a hang tag, right?
Well,
I mean,
one or
each
two.
owner of
Yeah.
the property owner,
Yeah.
right? That's what so I told her to come by.
Yeah, that's good.
That shouldn't be a hard thing.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Next thing, I had to credit $1,640 on the house on which I had filed a lien. But per the title attorney, the lien was discharged at foreclosure. And that's how it happens. If it isn't discharged at foreclosure, then I have a right to collect whatever's owed previous to the foreclosure. Talked with one guy who was very helpful, extremely helpful. He's a title attorney. And he thought he was going to be able to collect it for me, but no, it had been satisfied. So there's that. I was able to collect $271
I have
on
been
it
satisfied.
at
We
the
didn't
time
get
of
our money.
foreclosure.
How could you be
Because
satisfied?
they send me discharged at the time of foreclosure. I used the wrong word. They sent me the paperwork, they being the title company, foreclosure bank, I'm not sure. And, this was the amount that property sold for, 200 and some thousand, $10,000 and all the costs, associated with selling the property or closing on it. The mortgage was $10,000 more than what was collected. So of course, the mortgage company comes first. We're way down the totem pole of who gets to collect from that money, so I did have to credit him. But at least it's off the books. From Alan, who's out of town this week. He came in my office last week and he and I figured out and got me to be the main holder, right, account holder, to be able to view what's
Oh,
going on.
cameras.
The cameras at the beach, I'm sorry. So that's up and running, and he can set anybody up to be able to view those cameras, but in my mind, it should only be this office and him and maybe one other board member. I don't think we should go through a gyration every couple of years of, well, now you're off, and I'm on, and so on. There was a beach patrol person who wanted access, and Shirley said, no, you don't need that, so that's.
the board or you.
Yeah, so no, we're not gonna do that. We did find out we're gonna have to pay a monthly subscription to Verizon, already. He thought we had like a 1-year deal, but no, the trial version was already up, so it's $18 a month. So, to be able to have the Verizon. No, I think it's just total, just the access to the cameras and so on.
It seems pretty fair.
It's not bad, but he just didn't think, we're still under budget on the whole project, but he just didn't realize that was gonna happen, he felt bad. He does think we should probably get a third camera, and he's taking a look to see where we might.
Well, let's get the first 2 working right.
Well, I know.
Let's
Well,
get-
he's been trimming around and adjusting
Yeah,
a little bit.
Okay.
And Steve said he would go up the ladder and help him do that when the time, when he's ready. He travels a lot, though, Alan does, so.
Yeah, they don't do any good whether there's 3 or 10 of them if they're not aimed.
Well,
Right,
I think
so-
he did change, come and look at them when you have a chance, I'll pull them up and you can see, and you can actually span in closer. So if there's somebody standing there, there's that. One of the beach patrol people, Pat Hatcherson, would like, and he's made a sign, he would like to put a sign up at the lake for a kayak launch. Because the way it is now, apparently people cannot launch their kayaks off that jetty very easily.
Where at?
I think he wants it on
On the lakes.
the lake side, not the bay side.
Yeah,
You
Oh,
know,
on the pond? That's
The lake.
off the beach?
yes.
Oh.
That pond, lake, whatever, so yeah.
yeah, before you get to the rocks,
Hmm.
that, because when I took my pictures,
Mhm.
Pat was there, and he said
Oh,
he had
okay.
talked to you.
He did, yeah.
And he showed me, and I was like, yeah, I didn't know what to say, so I was like, oh, that's interesting.
That's always a good response.
Yeah,
I like that.
okay, yeah, but, you know, but instead of boat, I should say like kayak, because you don't want people bringing like big boats there.
Oh, you're right.
I think I would say kayak access
Kayak
or
access.
something, yeah, I don't think it'll.
I didn't even know that, but yeah, you're right.
Try to get
Kayak
boats there or something.
Well, what does he think this should be?
What?
What? I mean, what does he want?
He talked
Well,
about
the area
kayaks.
where you
He
can
just
bring,
wants to
put
be
your,
able,
in your kayak.
he doesn't
Clear
want
Kayak into the
Yeah.
lake?
into the lake.
Into the lake.
He doesn't want people parking there. First he said no parking, so that people could pull up and get their kayak in. But then the sign that he made doesn't say no parking.
No.
This tells me nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
You want me to ask him for more detail?
Well, I mean, if it's a kayak, you clear some of the grass away and he puts the kayak down there and gets in it and goes.
That's
But what he
basically
said
what it is.
What's happening now is that people are parking there. When he came into my office, he didn't show me this. He wanted to put in no parking, and I thought kayak launch, so that people could back in, put their kayak in the water and then move their car.
You can just, I mean, kayak, you can just walk your kayak over too.
Right.
It's not
Okay,
a big-
so no, let's
Because
just
I,
say,
Yeah, you don't,
all right,
because if you try to do that, nobody's gonna pay attention to it.
that was my
They're gonna
thought,
park
they're
there
gonna
anyway.
park there regardless.
So
and
really,
they're
if it's a
gonna park there.
kayak, like,
I think it's a little bit confusing too if it says boat.
Yeah, I
'Cause people
agree.
are gonna think, oh,
That I
I can
didn't
bring
even-
my boat here,
Yeah, I
I can
didn't
back
even-
my
Yeah,
boat
you
over
don't-
here.
I didn't even notice that,
Don't
because
want
he had
that.
said kayak.
Yeah.
I'll just say no, for, and especially because your people park there anyway.
I mean, if, you know, we could put some sort of a sign there by the shoreline and just say kayak launching.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then let them figure it out.
Yeah, kayak launching, yeah.
But I don't see how we can block off a lot of parking.
No, I agree, there's not enough there to
Yeah.
play with.
Mhm.
All right,
The kayak's not like it's, you know, we're not talking about this on a trailer or anything.
yeah. Okay, so moving on. So I gave each of you 2 ballots to, if you can't be there, you know, at least for yourself, drop one off. If you
what-
don't have it ready until
what's
the
the
meeting,
date?
bring it
June
with you.
25th.
Okay, okay.
If you don't have them, you know, the day before the meeting, you have to bring them with you to the meeting.
Okay.
Just-
I was like,
Just-
oh, all right, I hear ya.
I know you do.
All right.
And I have plenty if anybody wants to know. Because these counts were quorum for anybody that doesn't remember me saying that. And I have jury duty. I am so excited. Last week of June, first week of July. So it's one where you call in, so there may be days when I'm not doing. I'm excited. I've never.
I would be called all the time in Montgomery County, and I have not been called once here. My kids have all been called, they've done jury duty, I've been called, it's like,
I was called by Calvert like the day
What was
after
that
I moved
one?
to St. Mary's, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
Really?
yeah, I haven't been called since I'm new to it though.
I was called in on one and then they settled it, you know, and then we ended up not doing
I'm
anything.
doing it.
And then a couple times I was called and we'd already had vacation or something planned, so.
I hate to go back,
That's right.
but I dimly recall something in the covenants.
Oh, yeah.
And-
Oh, yeah.
Covenants say that only houses that are on a pond or other waterway can have any boats in there.
You know what, you're right.
Others cannot.
It does say that. I think it does say that. You can read it and see, because I think that he's right.
The canals and lagoons shall be used and navigated by no one who is not an owner, lessee, occupant of a lot fronting on said canal, or a guest or member of the family of such an owner, or occupant or other person authorized by the Drum Point Corporation. I guess we could authorize. But it's so poorly written, all of these things, I mean, I don't know.
I think
either
you're
way, yeah.
So maybe we should just leave well enough alone and not worry about making a kayak launch in
Well, we've already provided things like water access,
Right.
for, to get to beaches and things like that. We've got other areas like the little, over there on Lake Charming, where you can launch a little kayak or something there. We've got the boat ramp, that's on a canal over there, so.
You're right, I think so.
We have some confusion on the, well, I'm not confused, but judging by what people write on Facebook, there are a lot of confused people. So, like the end of Bayview and Bay, there's a water access, or it says beach access.
Beach, yeah.
Beach access, and the stairs that go down, and then there was a sign put up that said no trespassing, in the sand. So people are like, well, is it beach access or is it not beach access? And I was like, well, it's beach, everywhere it's beach access up to the mean high tide
I
mark.
know.
But you can't cross people's property to
Right.
get
Just
to
do
it.
it.
But it's like a family, there's like a family that has little kids, and they used to go, to that beach all the time, and then, so, anyway, there's like a lot of stuff going back and forth, a lot of confusion because of the two different signs.
What if, well, this is private property for RA and Liesel, where they put the sign, that's where you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That is their private property, and I've told people that.
Yeah,
You know why?
but
It's
I
their
understand their
property.
confusion, because when you go up to the sign that says beach access, as soon as you
So-
go down the stairs, you see no trespassing, private
I know,
property.
yeah,
So they're like,
So what if I know we talked about this before, and they wanted a big elaborate sign. What if we just change the sign that we place and have it say shoreline access, or water access, or,
but it is beach access up to Menai
I
High.
know.
So it's just confusing. And that's, I just know.
It did not used to be such a big issue.
I know,
Yeah,
I
so
know.
Airbnb.
Everybody was just kind of respectful and just kind of used things quietly.
Is this the battle over the B&B there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you see the sign, it is
Well-
like a mega, like sign stuck in the, it's not a
Didn't
pretty.
they move one of
They
the
moved
signs, there was one that was sticking up that
Yeah, it's
looked
still
like it
there.
might be a
But
safe.
they moved it back. Remember, it was right by the steps and it was in cement. And Mike Stanton's daughter, granddaughter, fell and cut her head. And he was quite upset, reasonably so. And they did move that and put it just in a post.
Yeah,
Closer, more into their own property, obvious. And,
yeah,
it's.
it's, I was
So they
just
moved
there
it.
yesterday,
Yeah.
it's still. I can see the argument both ways, so I don't wanna really take a side, but I can also understand the confusion of a lot of
Should
people.
we read?
I don't know if
the
you-
sign,
I don't know if
access to the shoreline below the mean high water.
I don't know if there's really anything other than just stating to people in the newsletter that, you have beach access up to the Mean High.
And I can do that again, and I have, I've done emails.
Yeah, I would do that.
Just,
This whole water access thing in the way Maryland has written it is confusing to anybody.
yeah.
Even if they realize that it's below the mean high water line, what's the mean high water line? How do you define that?
I always
So-
describe it as generally a compacted sink.
And
As a guideline, and I stress, that's just a
Right.
guideline.
and usually there's like, you can see debris where
Yeah.
the water pushes
Yeah,
up,
right.
where it makes a
Yeah.
line.
Right.
Yeah,
But is that the mean one, or is that the
that's the mean
extreme
one.
one? or-
Yeah, that's the mean one, because the high one
See?
would go above it. The
Well,
high tide
so-
is above.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess as long as somebody mentioned Airbnbs, I did have a complaint about another one. and I think I now know who was staying in it. They were out on the dock like until 3 in the morning. Loud, noisy, and I contacted the owner, I sent an email. There's 4 or 5 owners on this property, and they bought it, I think, specifically to be an Airbnb. And, you know, they apologized, and they would make sure the rules for the Airbnb were, you know, more strongly clarified and so on, and so on and so forth. So anyway, I just hope it's not a sign of things to come with the Airbnbs being.
How many, do we know how many we have?
I don't know, and I don't know how to find it. I went on the website trying to, you know, I cannot Drum Point Airbnbs, and there's no way to search like that I saw. I'm told there are like 30,
There are a lot.
And there's gonna be a lot
and
more.
there'll be more.
Yeah.
I'm getting calls, I told you before, from realtors. You know, are there any restrictions?
Well,
Because I have a couple that
if
wants
they're
to buy this
using-
$1 million house.
But if they're
Can't
using,
afford
a-
it,
if
so
they're
I'm
using a
doing-
service like VRBO or Airbnb,
Yeah,
then you could just do a geographical search,
You know, Drum Point, yeah.
do a lesbian and narrow it down and see what pops up. And I
but you
would
have to
imagine-
put in like dates that, when do you want to rent it? And, you know, try to play with it like that
Well,
too.
yeah, but
You
you
can't just do a, not that I have found, I may not be.
I don't know, some of them have, you know, a step above that where you can see what's in an area, and then you have to narrow it down to what dates you're interested in and
Right.
that kind of stuff.
I mean, I'll try it.
Take a
Okay,
look at it. So I would imagine most of them would probably use one of those services. There may be some that are, you know, going strictly on their own,
I'll look at that.
but to get the advertising and the,
They need the, yeah,
visibility, you need.
yeah, they do, and I would think about that. And then also, and this is my last thing on my report, this is really Bonnie's report, but she's not here. Bonnie,
I'm here,
Your-
voice only.
your rocks. Bonnie sent me this photo today, and she said that it appears to her that these rocks are now closer together than they were.
That's the way they work.
Well, I could go through more photos, but Bonnie, I was going to say, Steve was here,
Yeah,
before the meeting began. He said, I don't know, let me go down and look. He came back and he sent me a photo. He said the rocks have not moved.
No,
You can tell where the grass is growing.
right.
There's no indentations where they've been moved or anything like that. They are where they were
I can tell you
placed.
exactly what happened.
Okay,
Okay, instead of buying a finite number of rocks, we bought basically a tonnage of rocks.
okay.
Okay, and since they're of somewhat different size, you can't specify the quantity. So we went out there and stepped off the measurement. We tried to space them as equally as we could, but we didn't know exactly how many rocks we were gonna end up with. So I said,
you have too
okay,
many, you have too many.
well, I know that, but that's too bad. That's what we got.
Yeah, could you have put them somewhere
can't-
else, because it looks kind of strange.
Bonnie, it was $7,000 to get those rocks placed.
I get it.
I mean-
I'm not saying we should have done it, but there could have been a better way of spacing them. If they have such, I mean, when you know you have 15 rocks and you know you're only.
Well,
then you're up to
we're not-
15.
We got what we got, and we're not gonna change it, so.
So let
I
me
got
just,
that.
let me add one more thing. Steve did say, and if you look at the photo, this is where we placed the rock closest to the lake.
Right.
People are definitely driving their golf carts over it.
Have they gone around that?
Yeah,
Okay,
they're going
so
right
then
around it. He said,
then-
I could get my truck over that.
Okay, well then what we're gonna have to do is, get John to come and move that last rock.
Move it.
Or two of the rocks up, that's 5 that are bunched together.
And
You
if,
get-
while he's there, if, you know, we could spread a couple of the other ones out a little
Yeah.
bit, but,
So maybe like, yeah.
and Joe's just gonna have to weed whack.
Well, and that's what I wanted to add also, and this is a recent development. You know, we bought those tires 2 years ago for him to change out so that they wouldn't sink into the sand. They sink into the sand now because that sand is so fine. Plus that pavement's all gone and that probably was holding it. So he can't get the tractor on there now to use it. He
Okay.
will be weed
Then let's,
whacking it.
let's get John
I'll call
to
Sean. All right.
move a couple of the rocks on the end.
Well, my point is you have those 5 that are adjacent. You took the second one and the fourth one out, and they would be spaced nicely.
But there's nowhere to take them out to, Bonnie.
But I'm sure there's some place else on the property they could be put, on the other end maybe. But, you know, I'm not gonna argue with you, Mike, but I think there's probably a solution, but maybe you don't wanna do it.
Well, I think the rocks are doing their job and, you know.
Other than that little bit of the lake.
I'm not saying that they're not doing their job. I'm just saying the spacing, it's just those five that look kind of strange, all are decent, when the others are nicely spaced out.
Yeah,
I'll call John tomorrow though.
okay.
Okay, all right. That's it. Time to adjourn?
Okay. Roads?
Well, that's right, Steve was here and he left. Steve thought the meeting was at 6. So Steve's done the request for proposals. We just have to, he and I get together and decide about the pre-bid date and the bid opening date. And trying to kind of space it around my jury duty a little bit, which isn't a big problem. If I can't be here, we can open. I don't do much for pre-bid or the opening. I just sit there, you know, give him a sign-in sheet. So there's that. He's working on that. He's getting ready to paint the tie-ins, where they'll be tying in the driveways. And hoping to get the bid out there and proposals in time for the August board meeting. And that's it.
Yeah, it's nice to be ahead of the game on that.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe get started before the leaves.
Exactly right.
Cover the
Exactly
road.
right.
Okay. Was that it on that?
You guys want to hear about speed bumps? I feel like I'm talking with all
I
meeting.
know, it's like
So
deja vu.
I've been doing some work on speed bumps. Steve got a price from She High, about $3,000 per hump to have them installed, those kinds installed. But I went online just a little bit ago, and there are certain restrictions. They can be funded by the special tax district. Calvert County passed the resolution saying that yes, Public Works would work with the community to have this done, to make sure it's done properly. There's restrictions, like Steve suggested, there should be certain, like only on a straightaway, not on curved areas, not where the incline of the road is a certain, you know, percentage and so on. So it's still being talked about, but that's it.
And you know, there's a difference in a speed bump is
Yeah.
typically a fairly steep, small bump.
Right.
And those are the ones that cause damage.
Yeah.
And what they call traffic calming devices, which are becoming more common.
Well, and that's what that ordinance
They're
talks
a
about.
wider, shallower, and you know, you still can't hit them at 40 miles an hour without.
And that's what, I was sort of rushing through, that's what Calvert County talked about, traffic calming through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's like a program they're trying to, you know, help us do that if we want to take advantage of it. But this is the one clinker. 75% of the people on a given street have to agree to this, have to make the application for it. 75%.
Okay.
So just saying, so there's a few, it's not just as simple as saying, oh, you know, here, do this, here's money.
Okay,
But
well
we can
then,
work with Public Works to
can we
pursue
Can
it.
we talk about this at the general meeting then?
Yeah, yes.
We have enough information?
Sure.
So
Yeah,
if
it sounds like.
the people on the lake think, oh, well, we gotta do this, then okay, we need to go out and get 75% of the people
75%
signed up
of the
and
people,
Yeah.
yada yada.
I mean, that makes sense, because not everybody likes.
we do it as a committee for
And if you start them, where's it gonna end? We're gonna have speed bumps everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there has to be certain restrictions. And that's what Steve suggested a month ago when I mentioned.
Didn't the police put in hidden traffic monitors and found that there were like vanishingly few instances of
Oh,
speeders?
Well,
Almost
that,
none.
yes, and that's why we couldn't
And
get
there
the
was
speed
spending
limit
money for what?
reduced.
Yeah.
Couldn't get the speed limit reduced because, you know, there have to be noted violations of people like having horrid accidents and killing people, dying, there've been no fatalities, nothing. And again, I'm trying to rush through this.
But the cops have already addressed this.
But, yeah,
Well, they have, but then the question came up about liability. So I did talk to Amber about that, which I almost forgot to say. She said, there's no way we could be held liable if we refuse to do a speed bump or a calming device, and there's an accident and somebody gets killed pushing a baby stroller. She said, maybe, if there had been speed bumps there and you removed them, then maybe you could be held
Yeah,
liable.
right.
But we can't be held liable for not installing the speed.
And I would think the county, if they're you know, if the county has some kind of a program to help fund these things.
Yeah, not fund it, we would have to fund it ourselves through the
Okay,
taxes.
but, but put it, included in the tax district.
Yeah,
I would think that they would be interested in what the police have found and whether there really is a problem.
well, that was with regard to speeders, but,
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the problem
which
is
is
there's
what this
always
is.
like
You're
one or
right,
two
you're right.
outliers, not everybody's like speeding, but it's like the one or two outliers that could cause
I know.
Oh,
problems,
right.
but yeah,
You cannot control,
no, I know,
there's no
it's-
way. to
No, I
control
know.
cars, well.
and they're probably gonna take those bumps as like, oh, this is fun, let's see how
Yeah,
fast we
exactly
can
right.
hit them, you know?
Yeah.
So
I
I,
can see
Well,
that,
let's just keep,
yeah,
you know, pursuing, talk about it at the meeting, and
Okay.
let people know what's
Yeah.
been done as far as the police looking at the
Right.
speeds and.
Right.
I mean, they gave a really good presentation. I thought.
They
I mean,
did,
it was
they did.
really good.
Yeah, they put up those monitoring devices and they were recording.
All right, that's it.
All right. Okay, Jack, now you can talk about money.
Well,
Quit complaining.
well, the budget, as usual, looks pretty good. We're coming, you know, at a very nice glide path at the end of the fiscal year here. I'd say we're just about exactly where we want to be. There's a few, only two, where we're over budget, you know, that we already knew about the streets, which we
Yeah.
which one,
approved a long time ago.
which one did you say were over?
Capital improvements,
Capital improvements?
streets, road paving, et cetera.
Maybe, yeah.
And there was another one, just a little bit smaller. I don't have my marked up copy here, but it was, but overall, the budget is in balance, better than in balance, and we're in very good shape. And it all starts again July 1.
It does. As does the audit, starting the audit reports to the CPA.
When will they come in?
Oh, yeah, sometime in July or August, but they always send me a list of what they need, documents, and I'll upload those to their website.
I always feel better when you give us a thumbs up. Okay.
Bonnie or Jenny, any environmental updates?
I'll just say this about the Phragmites. Since we're coming up on July, I will go around to our usual sites and take pictures and send them to Mark Smith. Or if you prefer, I think Wally Bowles is cheaper. Maybe we should just start going with Wally Bowles. But he was the man that was recommended by Mark Smith to Jim at Portwood, because Mark Smith isn't doing residential single lot treatments anymore. So we can decide when, but I'll just take the pictures and maybe we'll get away with another year of not having to do anything about it.
Okay, good. Safety? Tom?
Have you had any, people volunteer?
No, never had anybody volunteer. Thought I had one person that was gonna come in and help with the CDs, but I haven't heard that.
Was it anybody that was already on the list?
Yes, this person, somebody was already. And I thought about reaching out to that gentleman, and I thought, I don't know, that I did do that, so
I don't think I would.
I didn't pursue it, so.
I can, see if Eric is interested.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, my husband,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
That'd be good. Where did the,
yeah.
The gentleman that John's talking about, I think, is
Yeah, he has an issue over in,
in CRA.
yeah, Chesapeake Ranch Estates, he's on the list. But I guess he's having some issues with the homeowners association over there. Seems like there's a lot of stuff going on.
Lot going on. He worked a lot with Peter and with the radios. I remember him. But they were telling him that he had not ever been on the safety committee. Because CRE sort of works into our safety committee, because they don't really have their own. It was sort of a together deal. And then we have the center and so on. So he wanted me, and I did. I just sent him a letter to whom it may concern. This man and his name served on our safety committee these years. That was it.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with him too.
Oh, you
We
did,
talked
okay.
about a lot about lawsuits and
Yes,
everything.
when he started on that,
They
I
probably scare you to death, right?
I'm more